press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hello students, welcome back to your social science class. We were dealing with the chapter Ancient Civilizations of India. Now we have learned about how town planning was done and why was the town declining and how it declined as well. We also learned about the Vedic age. Today we are going into the 4 Vedas that are there. Then we'll begin with the first or the pre-Rig Veda period, and then we'll move on to the post-Rig Veda period. Now the 4 Vedas are Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda and Athar Veda. Okay, Atharva Veda. So Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda were the 4 Vedas that were there. Now these Vedas basically believed in the worship of nature. And in the process of yaga, okay, and yagas and the process of yaga, and also black magic that was there. They were also called as Samhite, and every Samhite they did had a text called Brahmana. Okay, Brahmana. Then this Brahmana explained how these rituals have to be formed. So you make a connection there and write it down. Then every Brahmana had a Aryanka, okay, Aryanka and a Upanishad. So it was called as Samhite. Every Samhite had called a text called Brahmana. Brahmana explained the way of performing the rituals, and every Brahmana had an Aryanka or Upanishad. Now this Aryanka had instructions that were given to hermits, people who were living like sages who were living in the forest. That is some kind of a supernatural powers or instruction of super sensory way of doing certain things for these hermits who were living in the forest. That was Aryanka what was doing. Now these Upanishads they discussed with the topics of philosophy, okay, and showed us how intellect was important. Your intelligence and wisdom is important. Moving on to the pre-Rig Veda or the first Rig Veda period. Now this was one of the first among all the Vedas. Here what kind of a language was used, how their geographical situation was, what kind of social situation they had, all has been justified and shown to us. Alright. Now this Rig Veda has 1028 suktas. Suktas are prayer songs. Okay, suktas or prayer songs, 1028 prayer songs. Now these prayer songs are grouped under 10 mandalas. Now all these suktas, 1028 suktas were not done only at once, but at different times, Now these historians say there was a gap of 500 years when they had to do all these 1028. Now the language that is used here belongs to the Indo-European family, and they are languages. So it discusses areas from Afghanistan's Hindu Kush mountain to the area between or Doab. Doab is two areas between something else, between Ganga and Yamuna rivers. This discusses from Afghanistan's Hindu Kush mountains to the area between Ganga and Yamuna, and from Kashmir to the Sindh region in the north. Okay, Sindh region in the north, this is what this Veda discusses. Now we will discuss about the social system that is present in these Vedas. Now there were 3 communities at this time when the Vedas started, that is Aryans. They are also called as the aristocratic class. Okay, higher upper class, then the priestly class, and then the common class. So aristocracy okay, aristocratic class, common class, priestly class and the common people. These were the three divisions that were done in the classes people had. Now they didn't have this kind of a caste discrimination that was there, caste consciousness, that is I belong to this caste, you belong to this, that was not there. I mean, they were not aware of that kind. Now, in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, that is Purushukta, we understand, that is around somewhere around 1000 BCE, we understand the social system. In the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, that is Purushukta, okay, Purushashukta, in that we understand what kind of a social life they had. Okay. Now, according to this, they say the gods had created Adi Purusha. Okay, Adi Purusha where mouth was for Brahmanas, shoulders were Kshatriyas, thighs became Vaishyas and the Shudras were born under his feet. That is Adi Purusha. Now, all the story you may be knowing. So, this showed how the birth of caste came. Adipurusha where the mouth showed Brahmanas, shoulders showed Kshatriyas, your thighs showed Vaishyas and the Shudras were under the feet. Now, this was where people started to realize there is a caste system, but the birth of Varnas had not already come. These four Varnas were not actually told till then, okay, or not said like, okay, these are the four Varnas. No, they didn't say like that. That then in the later part of the Vedas, the Varna system appears. Now, they performed the three Varnas, the first three Varnas, they had their duties of doing rituals, administering, and they had rights over property. But the last one, the Shudras didn't have. The Shudras had to work for all these people. Now, there were also local tribe groups who belonged to the Shudra Varna, that is Dasyu, Pani and Dasa. They belonged to this Shudra Varna. Then Aryans who were there, they defeated this tribes Dasa and Dasyu and they make them work as slaves for them. Alright, then they brought all wealth by winning all battles and they didn't share it properly with the people. Now, the first three Varnas who were there, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, they had the right to look after the property, expand their property, do many things. Then they were, the Shudras were forced to work for the first three Varnas. Now, it was told that is their duty, and patriarchal family became the main unit or the main social unit that is there. Then the economic system, what kind of an economic system did they have? Now, they were basically into animal husbandry, looking after animals. For them, for us wealth here now means money, gold. For them wealth meant keeping horses, camels, sheep, okay, having a lot of cultivated land was a part of wealth for them then. Now, for us, how much money we have, how much gold and ornaments we have is wealth. For them it was like that then. Okay. Now, anybody could take this land, and make them theirs. Lot of cattle were given importance. They could use these cattle to plow their lands, to till their lands, okay, to move their carts so that they can take things from one place to another. Alright, they can take milk, they can eat meat. So, all these ways they kept cattle, and cattle herders grew more. After this, they had a grassland for these animals to graze. But until then, they didn't know what was the use of iron. Now, they used to use these processed plants, mature plants as charcoal to melt any metals that were there. Now, these kind of the brass that was there, they called as ayas. They called it as ayas, and they have given a reference to making pots, but that has not been taken as a profession seriously of making pots. People were into weaving, carpentry, okay, other professional skills. Now, Pani was referred many times. It referred to a very rich and a local tribe that was there, Pani. They knew a lot of agriculture that was there. Then whatever land was cultivable, they called it as Kshetra. Kshetra, and then cultivation was called as Krishi. Whatever cultivated was called as Kshetra, and whatever kind of cultivation they did was called as Krishi. Now, this kind of an irrigated land belongs to the 11th century where they referred to, and that belonged to the Aligram of Swat Valley. Aligram of Swat Valley. Now, they used to use this water, okay, bring water for their own needs. They had wood cups to lift water from the well, okay, wood big cups to lift water from the well with the help of a pulley. A stone pulley was there. Animals were used to plow the field, especially oxen, okay. Now they were used to pull water. So many other things they did. Agriculture was kept where rivers were close by. Now they also kept these seeds so that they preserved it for the future, and Yava was identified as barley by them. Next is the political system. They called it as Grama. Now Grama, and these are people living there, Gramas. Grama and Gramas. Now Rajan or Raja was the head of the tribe, Rajan or Raja. Then the names of these Rajans were related to specific tribes that were there. Some tribes had more than one Raja, and these Rukshi of Puru clan and Shudas of Bharata clan are examples, okay. These are the examples of Raja. Then they wanted to bring down this tribe of Dasyu and Pani by the Aryans wanted to, and that was one of the major parts of the Rig Veda, considering Dasyu and Pani as different people, alien people, and they could be killed. Now this started the conflict between Aryans and the non-Aryans. There is fight between Aryans and non-Aryans. Then when people wanted to gather together, they called it as Sabha or Samiti. Now this people who ruled over those common people was called as Kshatriya. Then a soldier who fought was called as Yodha, alright. Then this word Kshatriya was not used that much, Yodha was what was used. Now the kings used to gift cows, horses, and whatever tools they wanted to cultivate to the priestly class that was there. Now fights used to take place for the place that the cattle had to do. Now all those who were successful in these things, they used to get a lot of wealth. Now Yagna was something, okay, that fire was something that was the main center of their religious practices. Even today the Hindus follow it, isn't it? The Hindus do most of their, they worship fire that is there, keep it fire, isn't it? That's a sign, a symbol that is there. Now during this yagna, animals were sacrificed, they were killed to please gods, and yagnas were done for two reasons. One is to get good rains and then harvest, and they asked the gods to defeat people like the Dasyus. The priest was called as the Hotur, and shlokas were recited. Then one soma was a drink that was consummated, okay, consumption of soma. Idol worship was not done, just like we do now, certain people do. Idol worship was not done, and no other symbols were used of animals or any humans. Agni, this fire that was given a lot of importance in the Rig Veda period. 200 shlokas were on fire, that is Agni. Then these 200 were dedicated to Lord Indra, who would bring rains, defeat the enemies of the Aryans, that is the Dasyus and the Dasas, and they used to eat buffaloes and get drunk with this Somarasa. Now Vishnu had not gained a lot of importance then, and the late stage Rudra appeared as Shiva in Rig Veda. Now there are no reference to any kind of beliefs that people had to done. So Mahayagas were performed by rulers and head of various tribes, and they were led by the priest. Now these Kshetrapati, that is the god of plough, on Devi Sita, the minor house deity, okay, Vashito's Pati are found, all names of gods that are there. Then a lot of people were religious at that time, especially common people. In the last part of the Rig Veda, there were shlokas on marriage and death. So people of the Rig Veda period didn't know the art of writing. Language was based on phonetics, only spoken, that is sounds that you make. So this was a religious text that was found as Avesta. Avesta, a religious text that was found. Moving on to the post Rig Veda period. Post Rig Veda period. Now after Rig Veda, Samayuddha, Yaturveda and Yajurveda and Atharva Veda, they also continued to contribute again more. There were 3 different priests who conducted these rituals, okay. Yagna Saman, okay, then Advaryu and Atharva, all these priests were given this. Now this Samaveda has taken a lot of importance in this Rig Veda, which has changed a little. It has borrowed content from something else, changed a little. It consisted of different shlokas that were there, that's mantras, and which were done during the time of Yagna. Yajurveda had 2 different types of text called black and white, that is Krishna and Shukla. Okay, Shukla. This black Yajurveda that was there, explanations of how to recite the mantra, and they had discussions on these mantras. The white Yajurveda had no such explanations of what these mantras were. Now, these Vedas were not before 1000 BC. Atharva Veda was something similar to the Rig Veda, and it is taken much from the 10th mandala in the Rig Veda. Now, that was a language of the Brahmanas in comparison to the ancient language that was there. Next is the 4 divisions that were done. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra are found in the last part of the Rig Veda, and Purukshukta had brought a lot of changes. These Brahmins could accept gifts that were there for conducting yagnas and rituals. They could receive cows, own lands, offer pujas in related to any god, Brahmin gods. Then Rajayana indicates the Kshatriya Varna. They had political power, okay. They had political power, whoever belonged to Kshatriya had political power. Now they were trained in archery, they could go on chariots and had a lot of importance for themselves. The word Vaishya is found here and there, but not much. They could take gifts from others. Then they could not perform yagnas, or they could not have a place in front of the yagnas. They were still lesser than the first 2, Kshatriya and the Brahmins, and they still remained as Aryans. Next, the Shudras were a part again of the Varna system, but they were in the end. The Dasas and the Dasyus were almost out of the society, they were not inside then. The Shudras were not given any rights, they could be killed at any time, they were humiliated, okay, not allowed to perform any yagnas. Then the sacred priest who was there, he should not only do anything to them, but he should not also see the Shudras at all, okay, not see the Shudras at all. Now Shudras have come from these tribes, Dasyu, Dasas and others. They were early people who were collecting food. Also they were called as a Nishada and the Chandala. They were also grouped as untouchables. Then women also were considered as the lowest position there. Dowry was there. Women were not given any benefit out of it. Practice of child marriage was there. Polygamy, is marrying too many people, was also there. Now in the economic system, these Aryans moved from the Sindhu river to the Ganga river area. They had destroyed all the forests there. Now with the help of fire, they burnt the forest and the land for agriculture was prepared, and that is how they reached the plains of Uttar Pradesh. Now there was a scarcity of water in the Sutlej and Yamuna. Again from there they moved to the Ganga plain. They used iron axes to chop off all the trees. Now they have killed oxen also. So these people sometimes were called as outsiders. Oxen were used for agriculture and transport also. Now wealth of a person was by the number of cattle he had, how many number of animals he had, that was his wealth. They also have reference to metals like gold, copper, iron, lead, okay, brass. Silver is also referred of the archaeological evidences that are there. Now they didn't have any evidences for iron mining that was there before 1000 BC. Then iron artifacts were found in West Uttar Pradesh also. These people in the political system, they inhabited certain places, so certain tribes that were there, and in the east end of the Aryan settlement. That means they were living in the northeast of the present Uttar Pradesh, and that is how they used to do their administration. Some people were living in Bihar also. Now they because they were staying there and their type of profession that was there, they Indo-Aryans who were there in the banks of river Ganga, also in the Indian border and the West Punjab, because of the invasions or any attacks that were being done. Now military system was improved, okay. Iron was also used after 800 BCE. Then king was represented as equal to God. A king is described as Atara Veda, as the one who rules all is like a god in human form. That is, a king was considered as God. He is a form of God. A king is a form of God. Now sacrifices were done, taxes were brought, gifts were brought, then wealth also grew of the king. A coronation, that is he being the king, okay, the crown there, coronation was being done. Then Rajasuya came into existence, that is a king called as Rajasuya came into existence. So as a symbol of king's power, they performed the Ashwamedha Yaga, and that gained a lot of importance there. Then what about the religious system? That is, people believed with lot of changes that happened in the post Rigveda period. The Rudra and Vishnu also gained a significant position. They also became gods in the Vedic gods, one of the Vedic gods. Then this was also during the Brahmanas, where Brahmanas developed, and no reference to Vishnu's incarnation that is there, no reference to how Vishnu's way of doing it, but Rudra has taken over a lot of legends and mythology along with himself. So they have believed in a lot of yagnas and how they have to use these Puranas or the mythological stories. Then in the Upanishads, a term called karma or rebirth of the soul and rebirth of the soul were created. So that is also based on the birth of the person. So this is how caste system got institutionalized. Alright. So this is what was the lesson on ancient civilizations of India. See, it's all history, so you will have to read it once or twice to get it properly, okay. Certain things are yeah, like the Upanishads, the Vedas are in practice today. People have been reading it. If it's a religious text, you would know better. So read the textbook once or twice, you will get it. Thank you very much.